Thank you for joining me, Ashwin Berry, on NMH at 1, where we highlight the news making waves in Namibia and beyond, ranging from current affairs to community stories, sports and economic news. Coming up in this broadcast, IPPR reveals annual procurement discrepancies in health ministry. Paragon Aviation satisfies requirements to provide ground handling services at Hosea Kutako International Airport, ACC says. And the government school offers $50 Namibian a day to temporary cleaners. Follow all our programs on oneup2.com or DSTV 285 or GoTV 25 in Namibia. Midday news update coming up. Donald Trump will surrender today to face charges he tried to overturn the 2020 election. He is expected to do so at an Atlanta jail where conditions are so notorious they are under investigation by the Justice Department. The 77-year-old former president and the 18 co-defendants in the election racketeering case are to be booked at the Fulton County Jail, also known as the Rice Street Jail, according to the sheriff's office. Standard booking procedure is for a defendant to be fingerprinted and to have a mugshot taken before they are released on bond, which has already been set at $200,000 in Trump's case. Trump did not have to undergo having a mugshot taken during his 3 previous arrests this year: in New York on charges of paying hush money to a porn star, in Florida for mishandling top secret government documents, and in Washington on charges of conspiring to upend his 2020 election loss to Democrat Joe Biden. Visual News highlights local stories from across Namibia right after the break.
We are so excited to be kickstarting your morning with entertainment.
Everything was happening during this past weekend.
Yes.
Exciting news.
Wow, no, she was killing it already.
In my opinion, I don't see anything wrong with him serving the full term.
As well as keeping you informed on the issues that you need to know happening in and around our country.
The Institute for Public Policy and Research this morning revealed that the several annual procurement plans from different companies and ministries highlighting the health ministry have discrepancies. IPPR's researcher Frederico Links explained that there are loopholes when it comes to Namibia's implementation processes, which ties in with transparency and eventually corruption. This video is courtesy of Tanya Kipke.
That is why these transparency mechanisms are there, so that, you know, we as the public, as the media, as civil society can take a look at these things and question why you have these discrepancies and inconsistencies. And I mean, I think this reflects the Ministry of Health is constantly in the news for bad procurement practices. I mean, Global Fund has just accused it of mismanagement, including mismanagement of procurement under the Global Fund Namibia grant. So, I mean, things like these, where the procurement plans do not speak to the actual amounts of contracts being handed out, reflect bad planning, and actually opens the door to things like corrupt practices and underhanded dealings and so forth, because it's unclear what is actually happening when you're just looking at the documents, looking at the figures and so forth. All right, so.
The Namibia Civil Aviation Authority says Paragon Aviation Services satisfies all its requirements to provide ground handling services at the Hosea Kutako International Airport. The details follow as Namibian Sun leads us into the newspaper review segment.
Good evening and welcome to Sunset News.
Actually stays in list A in his speech, rate and taxes, and how much.
After the break, we take a look at the sports.
we bring you
Economic indicators, tomorrow's weather and sports. I am Aina Raiza Kweo.
Let's get into the newspaper review. The Namibia Civil Aviation Authority says Paragon Aviation Services, which recently took over ground handling services at the Hosea Kutako International Airport, satisfies all its requirements to provide those services. Several airlines have suspended cargo operations at Hosea Kutako Airport following Paragon's takeover last Saturday, citing aviation security issues and other cargo handling certifications, approvals and protocols. Yesterday, Airlink, which owns 40% of local operator Fly Namibia, suspended its cargo operation at Hosea Kutako, citing those very reasons. If Airlink continues providing a cargo service at Windhoek without these, the integrity of its operations and international aviation safety and security will be compromised, it said in a statement. Oosterheim Combined School in Arwab in the south recently posted a job vacancy for 2 cleaners who will be paid $50 Namibian per day, which is $20 less than the rate offered by other government schools to their cleaners. Former Keetmanshoop Rural Constituency Councillor Gerrit Witboy has since accused the school of exploitation, claiming it is taking advantage of the country's staggering unemployment rate. Last week, Witboy voiced his concerns on his WhatsApp status and accused the school of taking advantage of unemployed youth by dangling a $50 payment in front of them like a carrot. A farmer and several farm workers in the Omashete area had to throw in the towel this past weekend after they had been on the trail of chamois poachers for more than 10 hours in vain. The poachers are estimated to have walked at least 60 kilometers to slaughter one chamois. According to the farmer on whose farm it was slaughtered, they walked so far because there may be no more game left on nearby farms. In another case, cattle thieves slaughtered a brown vee stud bull belonging to Puenbrink in the Grootfontein area less than a week ago. This follows after cattle thieves also slaughtered one of his Brahman stud bulls shortly before. On the paper's page 2, Namibian President flew to South Africa yesterday afternoon to participate in the BRICS Africa Summit and the BRICS Plus event, which continues until today in Johannesburg. State House said South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has issued a personal invitation to President Hage Geingob. This year, South Africa is playing host to the 15th BRICS Summit. The BRICS countries consist of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. South Africa's Electricity Minister Koshientsho Ramakgopa's inaugural visit to Windhoek was about more than a promise to continue supplying 100 megawatts of baseload power. South Africa could also import electricity and ammonia from Namibia. This is the main story Algemene Zeitung has in today's edition, opening with this. Now, during their meeting last Friday, Mr. Ramakgopa discussed the Namibian Ministers of Mine and Energy, Tom Alwendo, how Eskom could buy future power from the Kudu gas-fired power plant through the SADC power pool. He said that was when South Africa's possible participation in the project would also be considered. On page 2, AZ is attending to the Windhoek International Airport, where the fallout from the ground service manager's legal dispute continues. Airlink is also suspending its cargo operations. Meanwhile, companies are suffering from shuttered warehouses. Airlink apologizes to its customers for the inconvenience and disruption this temporary measure will cause to their business. He said that while Airlink is willing to work with new service provider Paragon, the safety of passengers, staff and aircraft is paramount. We continue with the Namibian after the break.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouthwatering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
The Namibian newspaper reports that former Fisheries and Marine Resources Minister Bernard Esau repeated his denials about allocating fishing quotas before his testimony in a drawn-out bail hearing in the Windhoek High Court, which came to an end yesterday. After a break of nearly 3 months in his bail hearing before Judge David Muntsu, Esau returned to the witness stand yesterday to conclude his testimony in support of his application to be granted bail. The former minister has been held in custody since being arrested near the end of 2019. On page 3, the paper reports that the Industrialization and Trade Minister Lucia Ipumbu has lashed out at those accusing her ministry of a lack of consultation on the Namibia Investment Promotion and Facilitation Bill. Ipumbu did so at the opening of the Oshana Investment Conference at the University of Namibia's Jose Eduardo dos Santos campus at Ongwediva yesterday. Home Affairs Minister Albert Kawana has urged the business community to see the newly launched 24-hour Katima Mulilo border post operation as an economic opportunity. However, truck drivers have asked for security to be beefed up at the border post and the no man's land between the two countries. Kawana and his Zambian counterpart Jack Jacob Mwimbu jointly launched the 24-hour operation of Katima Mulilo border post. The ministers, during a joyous occasion on Tuesday, said they would like to see increased trade volumes between Namibia, Zambia and the DRC. The Walvis Bay-Lumbashi Economic Corridor is the fastest growing economic corridor in Namibia. Kawana believes the move will have tremendous economic benefits for both countries. David Bruni and Ian McLaren, who are tasked with managing the multi-million-dollar assets owned by fish rot-accused kingpins, were granted their wish last week to walk away from the task. Windhoek High Court Judge Orban Sibeya ordered the curator's appointment, dated 13 November 2020, be terminated. He, however, indicated that it will come to effect on the date when the Master of the High Court has appointed their replacement. The tourism peak season of 2023 is exhibiting robust performance, with July 2023 recording an occupancy rate of 61.0% compared to 51% in July 2022. The month of July marks the commencement of peak season by demonstrating a steep uptick in the occupancy rates for each year. July 2023 occupancy levels have been the best over the last 5 years, having surpassed July 2018's occupancy rate by 0.12 percentage points, according to Simone Storm. Year to date, the average occupancy rate is 46.3%, 2.6 percentage points short of 2019's average of 48.9%. Now, after the break, we highlight a proposal for an additional $2 billion per year, which could possibly be mobilized from African governments through a 20% budget increase for water security and sanitation. We'll get into this in economic news.
eTicket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nmh.com.na.
In economic news, it has been proposed that an additional $2 billion per year can be mobilized from African governments through a 20% budget increase for water security and sanitation. The proposal was made by an international high-level panel on water investments for Africa. Agriculture Minister Carl Schlatwein said this at the World Water Week in Stockholm, Sweden. During the UN Water Conference, the African Union Commission and the high-level panel launched their landmark report, Africa's Rising Investment Tide, which defines pathways for mobilizing an additional $30 billion per year to close the water investment gap in Africa through the Continental Africa Water Interment program. Satisfies said the investment plan will define specific actions needed to mobilize the money per year by 2030 in additional financing towards water supply security and sustainable sanitation in Africa. He said that while this ambitious plan is needed, the world is facing a three-faceted crisis, namely the climate change crisis, the effects of which are clearly visible with drought and floods, increased intensity out-of-season storms, intense wildfires, and consequent flooding, unprecedented heat waves, glaciers melting, and rising ocean levels. Let's head into the economic indicators. The Namibian dollar trades at 18.61 next to the US dollar, with 23.55 Namibian dollars getting you 1 British pound. Paragon Investment Group Limited managed an uptick of 1.00%, whilst most selected NSX stock closing prices maintained their value. Trustco Group Holdings Limited managed not an uptick rather, but they are down 21.50%, which is a stark difference to the last couple of weeks. Gold, copper, and Brent crude oil all managed to stay in the green, whilst platinum is 0.26% in the red. Zimbabwe has extended voting in selected wards by a day. We'll be looking at that story as we go into news from Africa after the break.
The Agenda is a weekly national affairs interview program hosted every Sunday by Namibian Sun editor Toivon Jabela, featuring a panel of high-profile newsmakers, analysts, and experts. The Agenda aims to reach high-end news consumers seeking informed understanding of national issues. This show is broadcasted on NTV, 1up2.com, and the Namibia Media Holdings Facebook platform. The Agenda focuses on interviews where we put the nation in the hot seat. Contact Agenda at synergy.com.na to get your product and service in the hot seat. The Agenda, focused on today's conversation.
Zimbabwe has extended voting in selected wards by a day after the late distribution of ballot papers delayed polling, according to a presidential decree issued late Wednesday. Voters in the southern African country waited 4 hours to vote on Wednesday, saying they were hungry for change from economic chaos, but analysts were skeptical that the ruling ZANU-PF party would allow a credible election or any loosening of its stranglehold on power. According to Zimbabwean law, voting is supposed to take place within 1 day. The presidential notice listed 40 wards it said were affected by the delays. Although the named areas make up less than 1% of the country's 12,374 wards, they include 11 wards in the capital, Harare, which has the highest number of registered voters. According to a notice from President Emmerson Mnangagwa announcing the extra day, the affected wards are in 3 of Zimbabwe's 10 provinces: opposition stronghold Harare, Mashonaland Central, where the ruling party is traditionally dominant, and Manicaland, which is a key battleground. Mnangagwa is seeking a re-election after a first term during which a runaway inflation, currency shortages, and sky-high unemployment left many Zimbabweans reliant on dollar remittances from relatives abroad to make ends meet. Mnangagwa, 80, took over when longtime strongman Robert Mugabe was toppled in a 2017 military coup. He faces 10 other candidates, including his main challenger, lawyer and pastor Nelson Chamisa of the Citizens Coalition for Change. The BRICS group of nations is flexing its political muscle with the addition of 6 countries that will become part of the bloc next year: Argentina, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Egypt, who joined the BRICS formation on the 1st of January 2024. President Cyril Ramaphosa, the 2023 chairperson of BRICS, made the announcement on Thursday morning during a session that brings the summit to a close. On Wednesday, India and China expressed its support for the expansion of the BRICS bloc. A key attraction of the group is the new development bank Bank, created in 2015 with the aim of offering an alternative to the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. Current BRICS members Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa make up a quarter of the global economy, account for a fifth of global trade and are home to 40% of the world's population. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated the new member countries and reiterated they had always supported the expansion of BRICS. Russian President Vladimir Putin, speaking via a virtual link, also welcomed the new member countries and said relevant rules and procedures will be established for the new members. Just an interesting fact, as of January 2024, 6 out of 9 of the world's most potent oil producers will be a part of BRICS. We'll be swinging over to international news.
Hello and welcome to today's Sports Rep Show.
I am your host, Jesse Jackson Kauraika. In replay, Namibia, who had won the toss for the first time on this tour.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news, both on the WTA for women's and
An Embraer Legacy 600 executive jet believed to have carried Wagner mercenary chief Yevgeny Prigozhin to his death on Wednesday showed no sign of problems until a precipitous drop in its final 30 seconds, according to flight tracking data. Rosaviastia, Russia's aviation agency, said Prigozhin, who led an aborted mutiny in June, was one of 10 people on board the downed plane. It was traveling from Moscow to St. Petersburg when it crashed near the village of Kuzhenkino in the Tver region. Russia's Emergency Situations Ministry said at 3:19 p.m. GMT, the aircraft made a sudden downward vertical, said Ian Peshenik of Flight Radar 24. Within about 30 seconds, the aircraft had plummeted more than 8,000 feet from its cruising altitude of 28,000 feet. Whatever happened, happened quickly, Peshenik said. Prior to its dramatic drop, there was no indication that there was anything wrong with this aircraft. Video showed the plane descending rapidly with its nose pointing almost straight downward and a plume of smoke or vapor behind it. North Korea's second attempt to put a spy satellite into space has failed 3 months after its first launch crashed into the sea. The attempt on Thursday morning failed during the third stage of its flight, state media said. For North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, a spy satellite is a coveted prize as it would let him monitor incoming attacks and plot his own more accurately. Pyongyang's space agency said it would try again in October. South Korea said it detected the launch of the rocket at around 3:50 local time and it had flown through international airspace over the Yellow Sea between mainland China and Korean Peninsula. The launch prompted an emergency warning in Japan's southernmost Okinawa prefecture minutes later, urging residents to take cover indoors. The alert was lifted after about 20 minutes. Condemning the launch, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said behavior like this goes against the UN resolutions and we are firmly protesting. The US urged North Korea to refrain from further threatening activity and called on Pyongyang to engage in serious diplomacy. It seems the rocket carrying the satellite flew further than during previous attempts. Officials in Pyongyang had described the botched attempt in May as their gravest failure while vowing to try again. We're going to swing over to sports shortly.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Let's get into local sport. Namibia's Lionel Kutako today could not qualify for the final at the Athletics World Championships. Kutako struggled under pressure and ended 29th out of 37 competitors with 7.55 meters. That is 72 centimeters short of his Namibian record. His personal best is 8.27 meters, which he achieved earlier this year at the National Senior Namibian Championships in Windhoek. Pioneers Park Primary School will host the Namibia School Sports Union Primary Schools Rugby Finals this Saturday morning, sponsored by Office Economics. A repeat of last season's Under-13 final will see Windhoek Gymnasium and Pioneers Park Primary School battle it out again on Saturday. Parkies were crowned Under-13 Super League champions in September last year after they beat Windhoek Gymnasium 33-7 at the Windhoek High School Vegop Stadium. These two schools take center stage again in the main match this coming weekend, as Parkies will try to retain their trophy once more, while Gymnasium will launch a renewed attack to try getting their hands on the trophy. The Windhoek Gymnasium Black Diamonds are set for a competitive battle against A. Shipena Secondary School over the weekend as the Capricorn Group Schools Netball League's heads to a climax. The Black Diamonds, who emerged victorious in the Under-19 League last year, have a 6-point lead over A. Shipena Secondary School as it stands with 33-27. Windhoek Gymnasium is also leading the Under-17 League against Windhoek High School with a 3-point difference between them. Windhoek High School is trailing by 5 points behind Windhoek Gymnasium in the Under-15 division at first and second place. Windhoek High School are currently tied in points against Windhoek Afrikaans Preferred School with 31 points each. Let's swing over to some football in international sport.
Neopaints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neopaints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neopaints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
Ollie Watkins scored a hat-trick as Aston Villa all but secured a Conference League group stage place with a 5-0 thrashing of Hibernian in their playoff round first leg on Wednesday. The Premier League side started their first European campaign since losing in the Europa League qualifying in 2010 in fine style. Unai Emery's men, who put 4 past Everton at the weekend, started strongly as Watkins headed home Lucas Digne's cross in the 17th minute at Easter Road. Hibs had a penalty appeal waved away soon afterwards, but any hopes the Scottish club had an upset ended as Watkins and Leon Bailey put former European champions Villa 3 goals front before half-time. Watkins finished another Digne cross to complete his treble less than 3 minutes into the second period. Douglas Luiz added a 5th from the spot with 16 minutes left, likely to allow Emery to rest players for next week's second leg. Mamelodi Sundowns made it 5 wins from 5 at the start of the new DStv Premiership season after they edged Richards Bay 1-0 at the King Goodwill Zelitini Stadium in Umlazi on Wednesday evening. It took Rulani Mokwena's side just 11 minutes to open the scoring when Junior Mendieta capped off a fine move to register his first goal for his new club. Although the NATO Rich Boys didn't sit back and carved out some chances themselves, however, the Brazilians had held on to pull further away from the chasing back albeit with a couple of games in hand as the KZN outfit went 18 matches without a win at the top flight. And Max Verstappen can equal Sebastian Vettel's record 9 wins in a row this weekend as Formula One ends its August break and heads for the Dutch seaside dunes of Zandvoort. The 25-year-old Red Bull driver can count on a capacity crowd cheering him all the way as he returns home more dominant than ever. The double world champion is favourite to complete a hat-trick after winning the 2 races held at the circuit since it returned to the calendar in 2021 and has a 125-point lead over Mexican teammate Sergio Perez after 12 of 22 rounds. If you're just joining us, this is still NMH at 1 and we'll get into the highlights from today's broadcast shortly.
Good evening and welcome to Sunset News.
Dutch stays in list A in his speech, rate in taxes, and how much
After the break, we take a look at the sports.
We bring you
economic indicators, tomorrow's weather and sports. I am Aina Raiza Kweo.
Diving into two of our main highlights from this afternoon's broadcast, Zimbabwe has extended voting in selected wards by a day after the late distribution of ballot papers delayed polling, according to a presidential decree issued yesterday. And an Embraer Legacy 600 executive jet believed to have carried Wagner mercenary chief Yevgeny Prigozhin to his death on Wednesday showed no sign of problems until a precipitous drop in its final 30 seconds, according to flight tracking data. Those have been your highlights.